All right, all right, all right. Greetings and welcome back once again. This is Imuna, and I pray everybody is doing well. All right, all right, all right. Welcome back once again. This is Imuna, and I pray everybody is doing well wherever you are in the earth. You don't know already, we are what? 4 episodes deep into the Marcus Garvey situation. And boy, may I tell you, me never know all of this. I did not know all of this. Okay. So, greetings to everybody who's just joined us in the chat. Say good morning, good evening, good afternoon to one another. Let us know where you are listening from so I could get the party started a little differently today. Warm the thing up a little bit, before we jump into this very intriguing information about Sir Marcus. Okay? So yeah, let us know where you're coming in from. And just to follow up, I want to shout out to everybody who reaches out to me via email, sends information. This particular information came from Devin. He's usually in the chat and the comment section. So big up yourself, Devin. And he sent me, remember last episode, I said I didn't see or couldn't find any manifest for the Lightborn sisters traveling. And he sent it over to me that the mother and Beryl, the second born, traveled to New York in 1911. So that is so very interesting. We're going to have to come back and see if we find any more interesting information on that, because what I did glean from it was that she was a teacher, and she was in her 20s. And we saw in the last episode that the preacher's daughters didn't marry till later on, like 1919 and 1920, right? So definitely. And I can't remember. And correct me if I'm wrong, I went back looking to see who advised me to look at volume number 1 to get more information about what Marcus was doing in Scotland. So I think I know who it is, but I couldn't go back and verify who it was. But thank you for the tip, because today's episode is courtesy of said tip. Okay. Yo, we have Sister Oni Love in the spot. Yes, indeed. This is White European Fiancé. It's a European Fiancé, and we're about to get into this. Everybody, shout out to where you are from. We have Sharon coming from Norfolk, Virginia. Shout out to you, Sharon. Welcome to the conversation. We have Gloria from Houston, Texas. Welcome to the conversation. We have Queenie, and hopefully I said that correctly, all the way from New Zealand. Welcome. I know I said Lietman. Welcome to the conversation. Welcome to the conversation. Shout out to my sister Oni Love. Welcome to the conversation as well. So you don't know, we about to go on because, like I said, the Honorable Marcus Garvey, National Hero of Jamaica. I thought it was you, Kevin. I thought it was you. And I was like, was it Kevin? But I couldn't. I went back through the chat. So thank you for that. Thank you for tipping me off. Because today. So let me come on camera now, right? Because here, wow. Shout out to Amsa from BK, Brooklyn, Flatbush all day, East Flatbush all day. All day, all day, all day. So let's get into this. What I want to say is, just like when we were doing the Bob and Rita situation, and we asked to give the elders some grace, give them some grace. Why? Because we're reading about people being people. Okay? And when people are people be people then. They grow, they learn, they have experiences. And so when we put people on pedestals or you make them into idols, then we are like, oh, I can't believe it, but they're human. We're human. Sometimes we hold these two contrasting thoughts at the same time. A lot of times, especially leaders, oftentimes they operate in this dichotomy. It's this and that, right? And so to the people, it's like, whoa, you're tweaking, as the young youth then would say, you're tweaking. But the reality is they are fighting or struggling with their own humanity while trying to do this great thing, right? So I kind of wanted to preface this with that because, yes, Kevin, you can email me some information on some historical documents. All historical documents are welcome. All right, Winter, shout out to Winter. I know you, Winter, coming from UK. Welcome to the conversation. So I'm not going to too long. Welcome, Marcia. Welcome to the conversation. We're gonna go back over what Garvey said. We're gonna go back over what Garvey said, and then we're gonna go to what Negro in the Hat is saying. That's the name of the book, Negro in the Hat. And then we are going to go to shout out to Kevin once again because he tipped me off. And do you know how much are for these books? Listen, like, subscribe, and watch the commercials because I'm going deep into these rabbit holes. And just volume 1 on this book alone is, a buck. Okay. And there are plenty of volumes. I'm searching the internet trying to find this volume, looking through JSTOR and everybody, and I'm like, why is the Garvey paper so expensive? But I found a little something. I found a little preview, and in the preview it had what I needed, so I was okay. But I still ordered the book, right? But okay, so watch the videos, y'all. Holla, shout out to Island Twist. Get the book. See Island Twist, y'all. Get the book, Island Twist. It's much appreciated. We're putting it back into the research. So let's go. Marcus Garvey. Now, Marcus says, and for those who just joined us, episode 1, 2, and 3, we're kind of looking at his childhood, his father, his mother, and his interesting relationship or mention of the neighbor or the white girl who he was particularly clean to, right? And so we're going to go back again because he says that was the situation. That was the first time that he was called a ninja. Okay. We're on YouTube, people. A derogatory term. So he said it didn't affect him, but the way he talked about it, we can only surmise that it has some effect. All right. So let's continue. I'm on page 3 for those who want to see where I'm coming from. Selected writings of Marcus Garvey. Where am I? So I want to get down to where he starts on his journey to Europe. He says here, hold on one second. Marcus, well, y'all try to confuse me. Wait a minute, here it is. I went traveling to South and Central America and parts of the West Indies to find out if it was so elsewhere. And I found the same situation. He's talking about the condition of melanated people, right? And we're going to go over those travels. Y'all already know how we did this. Same thing with Bob and Rita. We're topic oriented, not necessarily the sequential order. We're going according to topic. Okay. So he says, I set sail for Europe to find out if it was different there. And again, I found the stumbling block. You are black, quote unquote. I read of the conditions in America. I read Up from Slavery by Booker T. Washington. And then my doom, if I may call it, of being a race leader dawned upon me in London after I traveled through almost half of Europe. Remember, we pulled up the Gleaner article that I happen to have right here on my screen. This is when he comes back from Europe, and they're saying that this is young Marcus who was supposed to be doing school. There's more information on that, right? He comes back from Europe, and it says that he visited Paris, Madrid, and Edinburgh, which is Scotland, and that's notable because that's where they said they sent his little playmate to. And he met some people, right? So I had the Gleaner article right there, so I just pulled it up. So let's continue. So he went throughout Europe. I read this part already. I'm just refreshing what he said and then again what others have filled in. He goes on to say, why did I keep losing my space? Okay, he goes on to say, if I may call it, of being a race leader dawned upon me in London after I had traveled through almost half of Europe. I asked, where is the black man's government? Where is the king and his kingdom? Where is the president, his country, his ambassador, his army, his navy, his men of big affairs? I could not find them. And then I declared, I will make them. Okay. So he doesn't tell us much in this particular retelling. Maybe he says it other places, but in this particular retelling, he doesn't say much. This was in Current History Magazine, September of 1923, and it was named The Negro's Greatest Enemy. So again, this is the selective writings. So it's a snapshot. But in this snapshot of his life, he doesn't tell us much. So I'm going to share my screen now, because now we're going to read from Negro with a Hat. And shout out to everybody who's done this research. Yeah, is that what I'm saying? We're going to read from Negro with a Hat. So let me move this off the screen here. All right, let me know if you can see it and if everything is well. All right. So in this particular retelling, let me go back a little bit. Okay, it says here, this is page 45. It says here, for now, though, it was Garvey who had cause to be grateful. With the security of a small but regular income from his work as a handyman, he prepared to set off on a grand tour of European capitals. Remember, Garvey just says he went through half of England, right? At this point, his sister Indiana, the only surviving sister that we know of, right, had followed him to England. Garvey had written to her employer, George Judah, in Kingston, Jamaica, requesting that Indiana be allowed to accompany his family on a visit to England. She sailed from Jamaica with the Judah family on board the Baranaca and docked at Avonmouth. If I said that incorrectly, please forgive me. In August of 1912, Indiana was employed in the job best described as a hybrid of domestic servant and companion to the children. Indiana failed to thrive in England. Though she was a simple and retiring woman in London, she was conspicuous. Sitting along amongst a sea of white faces in the local church, she suffered quietly in her discomfort. After the service, she attracted the subtle attention of the congregation, who were delighted with the opportunity she presented to test their pseudo-scientific racial theories. At the end of service, the minister's daughter asked where she had hidden her tail. So much like his mother early on, I don't know if we got to that part, but when he goes to Kingston as a younger boy, he calls for his mother, and his mother comes, and his mother doesn't adjust well to Kingston. So I see that mirroring again in the same way that now he's in England and his sister comes over, but she doesn't adjust well to England. It goes on to say, her brother, by contrast, courted attention. A tour of the capitals of Europe would be his next venture. Marcus settled his account at his lodgings in South London and arranged for his correspondence to be forwarded, care of his sister, at 14 Durley Road, Stamford Hill. All right, we're ready to know. So every minute, we never had no texting, sorry, later writing, I do it. All right. One of his first journeys was on board the overnight train to Scotland. So I know I said it, and at the time when I thought, this is curious that he would go to Scotland off the rip. That's why I'm like, oh, this is curious. It says here one of his first, and we learned that Scotland was about 500 miles away. Okay. Interesting first stop there, brother. One of his first journeys was on board the overnight train to Scotland, where he stayed at least one night at the Cecil Hotel in Glasgow. On the 10th of December, 1913, Garvey wrote excitedly to Thaddeus McCormick back in Smith Village, Kingston, Jamaica. And we have that correspondence. That's why I say shout out to Kevin for telling me, go and look at the volume 1, because we have that correspondence because it is detailed in volume 1. So we're going to read it. It goes on to say, where are we? Garvey wrote excitedly to Thaddeus McCormick back in Smith Village, Kingston, Jamaica, that the next time he heard from him, Garvey would be in Paris, Monte Carlo, Boulogne, and Madrid were also on the itinerary. On mainland Europe, Garvey ticked off the great architectural wonders and soon fell in with some traveling missionaries. Not quite believing his good fortune, he was quietly pleased with the impression he seemed to make along the way. I have seen wonders, he wrote enthusiastically to McCormick, at some places. I have been the only black man seen for a good time. And this is what makes me always want to go to the source. Because any time they put the dots, 3 dots, that's whatever the author felt sufficient to share. I'm like, what's the 3 dots, Mr. Colin Grant? I mean, why did you leave us like this? It says some of the tourists are wondering how black men can travel about so much. Some take me for an African millionaire. You know, right now, young Marcus is, what time is, how old is young Marcus? This is 1912. Hold on, peoples. He is funny. 1912. He is 25 years old. Okay. And he out here talking about, yo, he bragging in the letter, yo, they think I'm a millionaire out here. Before this, he couldn't find a job and somebody hooked him up on the dock to be able to work and make money, right? But he whatever he did with his money, he decided he was going to travel. You know, I can't be mad at him. But he's out here talking about they thought he was an African millionaire. Anyway, in subsequent letters, Garvey cited his popularity amongst his aristocratic lady fellow travelers and playfully speculated that he might one day return to Jamaica with a white heiress on his arm. Huh? We're going to read that in more detail, but Remember, we said the neighbor, when we realized that he was 14 in the last episode, and he's talking about we was playing as little kids. No, you was big enough, right? So you were 14 and you were inclined towards the preacher's daughter, the one you like, and they told you to basically, get away. And now you over there writing your friend or your past employer mentor that you might come back to Jamaica with a white heiress on your arm. He goes on to say, 2 months later, it was apparent that it wasn't just Europe's great architectural sites that caught the young man's attention. That's what I thought. I don't think he just went there just to see the sights. That's what I thought, but I didn't have any proof at the time. On the 2nd of March, 1914, Marcus confided bashfully to Alfred Cap Burrows, I'm engaged to a Spanish-Irish heiress who I had the pleasure of meeting on the continent. See, I don't bait and switch over here. I tell y'all I'm about to give it to you. I'm going to give it to you. Because when I read it, I was like, what? He has some inclinations. Marcus, what is going on? So he writes and says that he's not only he's inclined or he might show up with one, but that he is engaged to a Spanish-Irish heiress who he had the pleasure of meeting on the continent. Tell me what you want from me. Really? Shout out to everybody who has just joined this. Nicola, thank you for the super chat. Welcome to the count. I'm sorry that you're not getting the notifications. And that's why I put this video up since like 5 hours ago to let YouTube know that I'm going to be going live. So I don't know why YouTube is bugging, but I'm glad you are here. Thank you, Marcia, for the super chat. You don't know, say I got to add some books for the study. So shout out to you and thank you so much for the super chat. There's one particular book I'm having a hard time finding. Actually, 2, the unpublished biography of Amy Ashwood, which is his first wife, First Amy. And then the other one is kind of difficult to find too. Her other book by Toni Martin is difficult. I don't know what's up with this Amy Ashwood book, but they don't want us to know what Amy had to say. Not Amy number 1. They'll let us know what Amy number 2 got to say. But Amy number 1, they are not. So yeah, YouTube, no worry, man. I'm glad it's on the reach. So Marcus had an inclination. First, it was with the preacher's daughter, and now it was with a Spanish heiress. Again, much like you guys, if you didn't know, I was shocked when I read this, okay? But we're going to read it a little bit more in the letters from the Garvey papers. So it says, Providence had waved her magic wand, and an heiress had materialized. He had mused on the fantasy of a union. What? With just such a creature. Remarkably, it now seemed a distant possibility. So at this time, he wasn't in his full Marcus Garvey form. He was becoming, You understand what I'm saying? He wasn't in his full manifestation. He was becoming, because after this point, when he gets back 1914, after he's on the boat and he comes back to Jamaica, he's ready for whatever reason to go full steam ahead with Up You Mighty Race and accomplish what you will. But people will be like, Amuna, why is this important? I think it is because the things that happen in our life that others may not know is what really puts that fire. So it may have a slant to it to a certain degree, unless you say you had a spiritual calling. But if it's coming from the self, if it's coming from the individual, it may have a slant on it. And based on what Marcus told us himself, okay, I'll read it again. I'll read it again before I continue reading this one. He says, the little white girl whom I liked the most knew no better than I did. So here, and then he goes on to say, they sent her and another sister to Edinburgh, Scotland, and told her she was never to write or try to get in touch with me, for I was a ninja. And then in another part, he says, after my first lesson in race, he said, I simply had no regrets. And after my first lesson in race distinction, I never thought of playing with white girls anymore. What are you saying to me, Marcus? Because this is 1901. And after that, in 1912, you go to England and you still having that conversation. But okay. He says, even if they might be next door neighbors, at home, my sister's company was good enough for me. And at school, I made friends with the colored girls next to me. And I asked the last time, what happened, Marcus? They wasn't there the whole time? How come after you got your little 14-year-old heart, smitched, now they your sisters, your aunts, they appeared? Wasn't they there the whole time? I don't know. It goes on to say, but again, let's give grace. This is history here. It says, where is it here? Remarkably, it now seemed a distinct possibility. It was a spectacular volte-face. Love had triumphed over his often stated and violently held belief that any union between blacks and whites was repugnant. This is the writer saying that. It is somewhat destructive of my principle, he conceded. Yet I hardly think I can change my mind in marrying her. So in this letter that he writes, which we're going to see the letter in a second, he is struggling between these two opinions because he already knew of some consciousness before he goes to Europe. He's already reading his father's books. He's already been to South America. He's already been in a printer's shop. He's already knowing things, but he still has an inclination. And in the letter, he says, it is somewhat destructive of my principle, yet I hardly think I can change my mind in marrying her. Wow. Curious man. There had been marriages between black men and white women, but they were rare in the extreme, and when subject to public scrutiny, were considered abhorrent. Because you have to remember what time this is, okay? So I'm going to stop there. And that was coming from the book. Oh, no, I didn't change the book. That was coming from the book. What book was that? That was coming from the book here. This is the name of the book that came from. So you can, if you want to check the book out yourself, Negro with a Hat, that's the name of the book that passage just came from. I'm going to come to the comment section real quick, and then I'm going to go into the Garvey Papers, Volume 1. Because I want to know, what did Garvey say himself? Root said, forbidden fruit always tastes sweet. Shout out to everybody who's just joined us. Shout out to Kevin from the UK. Sent over £5. Give thanks, give thanks, give thanks. Where's the Amy? No, the Amy's were melanated. Let's see here. And we're going to get into the Amy's 1 and 2 as we continue to gather information. But yes. Yo, I can't make no joke right now, Sintisha, don't make no joke, yo. I'm still trying to deliver the goods, right? Don't make no The email is solonomics@gmail.com. What is this showing us? This showing us that people are people, man. People are people, and as we grow we learn. You understand what I'm saying? But again, the he didn't fully escape from the experiences of enslavement. Maybe he wouldn't allow himself to be beat, or his parents, or namely his father, allowed him to get a bigger perspective on life through knowledge and books and education. But in his social life, in his emotional leanings, we see the earlier Garvey, because from 14 years old, he's like, yo, there's no difference between me and you, so I should have access to your women as well. Y'all don't tell Umar. But because I keep saying that because Umar is a big proponent of Marcus Garvey. And I'm not saying no, Marcus Garvey is a national hero of Jamaica. You understand? The Honorable Marcus Garvey. He came, he had some things, he said some things at a time that it wasn't a simple thing to say. So it did definitely take courage for him to say what he needed to say. He had many nemesis, and we're going to learn about that. Both materialized as other people as well as internal struggle, and many leaders do. Many leaders do. You understand what I'm saying? If you look at the life of many leaders, you're going to see, unless they have conquered themselves, because many times leaders desire to govern or lead the people in areas that they themselves has not yet conquered in themselves. And so this is why you would see that dichotomy, the public life and the private life. And sometimes they are not matching, right? Because it's not necessarily coming from an extension of your government and mastery over self. Is coming from a projecting a ideological perspective of what you want to see based on the situation, right? But let's just go over here. Let's go over here now. I'm not making this up, y'all. We coming from the books. And Kevin is saying people need to remember, though, one of Garvey's mentor was Dulce Muhammad, and both his marriages were to white women. Interesting. I did see when he went over there, he started to work with him. So again, is it what he's seeing? Is it something he's developing in his ideas? Remember, it was said of his father that his father felt like a little bit above the working class, right? Because his father was a professional stonemason. So it could be a lot of things that's in this conversation why he felt that he had the right or access to. I don't know, but we can just read what we got here. Read what we got. All right, so now I'm going to go over, now that we, let me come see here. Now that we have, okay, JPY says my Jamaican Rasta husband left me for a white woman and told me that life with white women is easier because of her white privilege. There is no struggle. Wow. I'm sorry to hear that, but wow. I mean, for him to give such a detailed reasoning, that was also interesting. You know, some people won't go as far as to tell you why they did what they did. So that's curious. Okay, prophetic whirlwind. We see that a great deal with Black leaders, especially when it comes to who they marry, even down to colorism. But we do not want to be honest about this. We're going to talk about it, sis. We're going to have to talk about it because here we are, right? So colorism came up in the Bob Marley story, and we see it coming back up again in this Marcus story. And I looked at some paperwork that we're going to see at another time. Marcus was 5'4". I'm like, Marcus, you was 5'4"? Uh-huh. Jamin says Marcus did for the Black nation more than any other leader did ever. He definitely came in and he delivered. We're going to keep talking about that. Sometimes when we this conversation doesn't negate what he came and did later. This is the early layer. Maybe I should put early years there, because this is the formation. This is what got him to the point of when he gets to New York and becomes Marcus Garvey. You understand what I'm saying? This is what precedes it. And to know, just like Malcolm Little, at the time he was Malcolm Little, he had a similar affinity, right? But look what Malcolm X becomes later on. So everybody starts from somewhere. Yeah, we didn't conquer ourselves first. Yeah, we should conquer ourselves and then lead. He who conquers himself I'm paraphrasing. It's better than a man who takes a strong city, right? You have to learn to govern yourself first before it is that we can go out now and be this mass leader. But we're going to see how Marcus sees the condition and he basically wants to do something about it. And this is, he's on the boat like, what should I name it? What should I name it? So he's been around the world, he's seen the conditions, and he wants to make a name for himself in a certain way. He wants to do something about the condition of Black people, right? So yeah, so he was engaged, according to the narrative, to a Spanish European woman. Okay, we're gonna go. This is the recounting. We're gonna go now, and I'm gonna come back to the comment section in a little bit. Let's go ahead and go to the letters. Who said they wanted to hear it for themselves? Y'all know I like the what you call it. We're gonna come back to the comment section in a second. Now let's go to the Garvey papers. Shout out to Google Books, who gave us the Garvey papers. Hold up. Who gave us the Garvey papers? But they gave me just what I needed. I ordered the book because I needed the pages, but this one only gives you a preview, and in the preview is exactly what I needed. So it's all good. I'm sure there's much more, but this is what we need for this here conversation. All right. Hold on. I just want to make sure I didn't go up too much. All right, boom. So this is the Marcus Garvey UNIA papers. Remember those letters we just read about that he was writing when he was in England? All right. Remember there was a reference to a T.A. McCormick? Cool. So this is Marcus said to be writing to T.A. McCormick. And at the time, he was still in London. 14 Durley Road. Remember that he forwarded to his sister because he was going to be out of town. And this is October. And I'm thinking this is October 1913. It says the first 4 pages of the letter is missing. 4-page letter. Where is the rest of the pages? But it's okay. I hope you have received some money from Mr. Scott, Adrian, and any time we see the notation, I'm going to read it after, so no worries. It's taking advantage of my absence. From when he says that there was no decided bargain, he has simply refused or reversed the truth. Anyhow, we won't fall out for that if he doesn't pay. Ask him to keep the book safely till my return. I will write you from Paris, but you must answer my letters from the present and address them in the care of Miss Indiana Garvey at above address, as I shall be up globetrotting for a while. I can't, Marcus was flexing. All I've ever drink some of my tea. I have a little sorrow tea. What are they? Marcus is flexing. Marcus is like, forward all my mail, fam. I'm going to be globetrotting for a while, so I might not be able to get back to you, but it's no worries. I'll get back to you when I get back to you. That's hilarious. There is an old man by the name of Phillips who works at the office of Mr. Orette, a solicitor, who was American vice consul. His office is in Duke Street in an earthquake-wrecked building, because remember, there was a big earthquake in Jamaica. I don't know if this is what he's still referring to, but adjoining Cargill and Cargill, opposite the mayor and council, he owes me 5 shillings. Please receive it and take same. I will send you some cash in the new year. Yours sincerely, happy Christmas and prosperous new year, he says, Marcus Garvey. Right? So he's trying to settle situations while he's not in town. And I hope I'm at the right place here. I'm hoping I'm at the right place. Hold on. So who is Thaddeus McCormick? Thaddeus McCormick was born in Kingston, Jamaica, and educated in Wedgebrand School. He was a tailor and worked as a cutter for a number of cities' large department store. As an outstanding elocutionist, because we didn't get to that part, but Marcus studies how to speak. He studies, everything before he leaves. And the winner of several medals, it is possible that he initiated Garvey into the art of elocution. After Garvey arrived in Kingston, he boarded with the McCormick family. He was given a small room adjoining the main house at 13 Pink Lane, which was located near the Central Market in the area of the city, then known as Smith Village. Garvey became a lifelong friend of T.A. McCormick. So this I'm brethren, I'm woman, worked as the secretary for Garvey's Black Man and New Jamaican newspaper. Interview with Malcolm George McCormick, nephew of T.A. McCormick, 1979, letter to editor from Edna L. McCormick. So they gave the they gave the letters, and that's how they got them. Okay. So who is the sister? Indiana Garvey was Garvey's eldest sister and later the wife of Alfred Uriah Pert. She joined Garvey in England in the summer of 1912. George Fontaneous Judah, Kingston city engineer and leader of the Roman Catholic laity, granted Garvey's request to have her accompany his family to England that year. Indiana Garvey returned to Jamaica sometime after Garvey, though the exact date is not known. She was to join Garvey again in the United States, working as his housekeeper in New York until the early spring of 1920, when she and her husband returned to Jamaica. In making all that sister come work as housekeeper in yard? I'm sorry, side note. Interview with Ruth Prescott, daughter of Indiana Garvey, 1976. So this is how they're getting all of this information. For those who just joined us, welcome to the conversation. Oh, hold on there. Let me move this thing. We need deep into the conversation. I will come to the conversation, the comment section in a minute, but let's continue. That's to give you a backstory. This was the person when he left country, when he left St. Anne, the McCormick family, he stayed with them. So it makes sense that he would divulge some personal things, right? And eventually they give the letters up. So this is Marcus Garvey to T.A. McCormick. And he has Hotel Cecil, 128 Trongate, Glasgow, Scotland, January 14th, 1914. So he takes his Marcus Garvey self over there to Scotland. Okay, so let's listen. My dear friend, just a few lines to inform you that I am still in the land of the living. As you will see from heading, I am in bonny Scotland among the Highland folk. I expect leaving here at the weekend for long. I have just run over to Edinburgh. I'm sorry, y'all. I have just run over to Edinburgh to take a glance of the ancient domains of Mary, Queen of Scots, for the scene was changed. Him tell we say him gone see castle, innit? I have visited Manchester, Liverpool, Leeds, Sheffield, Newcastle, Tyne before coming here. And after my European tour, I have seen wonders. So the book tells us that he went there in the beginning part. He's saying no, he ends up going to Scotland at the latter part because it is the furthest out, right? I have seen wonders. I have learned wonders, and I hope to teach wonders. It is bitingly cold in these parts, but since I'm a tourist, I've provided all the necessaries for such a person. At some place I have visited, I have been the only Black man seen for a good time. And as you know me well, I had access to places that only the aristocracy would think of going. Some of the people I met as tourists are wondering how a Black man can travel about so much. Some take me for an African millionaire. I have met some of the same people at Monte Carlo, Paris. I have to see how to pronounce this. Boulogne, London, Madrid, and elsewhere. If I wanted white heiress, I could have startled Jamaica on my return. Basically, it must say, boy, if me did want to run up on a girl and come back with that, me could have do that. Right? So this is why I like coming to the source, because the way at first it was written in Negro with a hat, it was written a little bit different than how he wrote it here. If I wanted white heiress, he says, I could have startled Jamaica on my return, but remainder of letter missing. Are we serious? But ... So we missing the first four parts of the letter, but so far what we're hearing, if he wanted, he's flexing. If I wanted, you know what I mean? I could have done that. No problem. Shout out to Ruth. Thank you for joining us and thank you for supporting the thing. Thank you for supporting the thing. Definitely enjoying. Ruth Adams, thank you for the super chat. I'm going to go through the super chats right now and then I'm going to continue the letter. So thank you, Ruth Adams, for the $50 super chat. Shout out to Kevin for the £2 super chat. You email a PDF Wow, the whole book. Give thanks, Kevin. Give thanks. Another super chat from Kevin, £5. Nicola, $10 super chat. Give thanks. Marcia, $20 super chat. Give thanks. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. So, like I said, it's going back into the research. So let's get it. Marcus is over here talking about if me did one gal from around here, trust me, me could have shot Jamaica. When me come back, me have a iris by my hand. Seriously? That tickled me. I'm sorry, y'all. Remember, because before, Pastor Lightborn box where him little Juby. Pastor Lightborn go mess up him things and send where him Juby gone to Scotland. Or so we heard, right? So let's continue. Someone would say, Amuna, you promised us an engagement, and this was just him bragging. No worries. We got you. We got you. So let's continue here. Let's continue. So they're talking about Mary Queen of Scots was referenced in a poem. It was a dramatic piece. Marcus Garvey to Alfred E. Burroughs. Once again, this is March of 1914, 2 months later. Dear Mr. Cap, I will soon find out who Mr. Cap is, okay? I trust that by now, but I like to know who thief the rest of. I'm sorry, y'all. I know the family turned in these letters, but where's the rest of the letter? Why did y'all take that part out? Y'all run a game with us. It's okay. It's okay. We got enough. Dear Mr. Cap, I trust that by now you have received samples from firms. That several words mutilated and illegible. Same. I've been traveling about the continent a great deal and returned to college a couple of weeks ago. Because I read at other places that he had to try to find work to feed himself, and then later on, he found a job and he was taking night classes. I'm asking that you be good enough to send me a testimonial to the effect that I am a practical printer and have been managing office as such in one referral. Basically, I have been fortunate enough to lose my testimonials and references during my stay in Paris. I lose them in my hand case along with other valuables. You could word the letter of explanation or testimonials to the effect that I've been managing your office. Himala, tell him off right. Yo, Garvey was no joke. Garvey was like, yo, I'm going to need a reference and I'm going to need you to write it just how I say it. Okay. Jamaica, and that I relinquish such posts for journalism. When I left Port Maria, I went, word illegible, to manage Benjamin's office, and I subsequently started a paper of my own. And later I've been running and editing my own papers in Port Limon, Costa Rica, and Colon, Panama, respectively. I've asked Benjamin to send me a testimonial also. Probably I look work. You understand what I say? You can please oblige me by having the testimonial typewritten. Yo, Garvey was a man on a mission. Can we put some fire emojis up for Garvey right now? Can we put some books up for Garvey? Garvey is a man who knew what time it was. He was like, bro, I'm gonna need you to forward me some stuff, and I'm gonna need you to do it just like this. He's not mincing. He's not playing. Okay. I'm sorry. I just find that it's giving us a little bit about his personality. Let's continue. He says, I am now breaking the news to you. Asusi magogi now, you know. Wait, are you ready for this? Asusi magogi now, you know. This is an all-time source. I am now breaking the news to you. He giving old-time sus like, yo, bruh. You know what I mean? He giving old-time sus. Hear him, no? I am now breaking the news to you as the only person in Jamaica. That means that this not reach a road yet. May I tell you when nobody else no know yet. So people in Jamaica probably like, me never hear that. Yeah, you probably didn't hear it because he just said nobody knows that I am engaged to a Spanish iris. So hold on there, Marcus. After the little heartbreak, you tell us say. You did learn your lesson. But here you are in England. When you go find, before you were joking, when you were speaking to McCormick, you was joking like, if I wanted to, I could. But now when you're talking to your homie, what's his name again? Alfred E. Burroughs. Hear you, Nona? Hear him, Nona? I am now breaking the news to you as the only person in Jamaica that I am engaged to a Spanish Irish heiress whom I had the pleasure of meeting during my tour on the continent. What were you going riding cross country together? Eh? It is somewhat destructive of my principle. Hence, the news is not yet conveyed to the Jamaica press. Because he's saying at this point, bro, I realize that this is a walking contradiction right now. How am I gonna let this be known? And some of the stuff that gets it to the press, Garvey is a printer. He's in that journalistic space. So because I was like, how did they know he was coming back when we did the article when he came back from overseas? He knows how to put things into the press. Hear him, Nona? It is somewhat destructive of my principle. Hence, the news is not yet conveyed to the Jamaica press. I hardly think I can change my mind in marrying her, although it will be some word mutilated time. 2 words mutilated and arrangements. I trust you and family are well. I am yours for faithfully, Marcus Garvey. Hold on. Me need another sip of my sorrow. Hold on there, everybody. Me never put no sugar. Sorrow without sugar is good for making sure you don't get sugar. You understand what I'm saying? Oh, Ebony, welcome. It's morning over there. He was conscious at this time. He was conscious at this time. But was he full on Pan-Africanism? I don't think so, because I know that he's aware, because at this point he's struggling internally. He's having this internal conversation and dialogue. And let's repeat what he says again. He says, his words, not mine, although he says, it is somewhat destructive of my principle. That means it goes against what I stand for. But then he goes on to say, I hardly think I can change my mind in marrying her, although it will be some blank time and arrangement. Then he cuts the conversation. Interesting. Oh, so interesting. He had to get it out. He was trying to share it with somebody. Okay. But then, as I kept reading in the notes, we're going to see who Alfred Ernest Cap Burroughs is, and then we're going to see this missing, unpublished. This is why I say, you guys, write your books, man. Write your life story, man. Put it on paper, because Amy Ashwood Garvey was writing or getting her biography, bibliography, autobiography written, but it's unpublished. Can I find it? I'm scouring. Okay. Because what did she write about? But that's another story for another day. So who's Alfred? Alfred Burroughs was a master printer of St. Ann's Bay, with whom Marcus served his apprenticeship. Remember, he said when he was 14 years old and his pops lost their money and he had to drop out of school. And then he had to take an apprenticeship and he was in the shop. Well, this is the apprenticeship he took. So the guy is kind of like a father to him a little bit, I suppose. All right. He's kind of like a father to him. So let's continue. It says, who may also have been his godfather. Garvey always remained on close terms with Burroughs after leaving St. Ann's Bay. Okay. Now, reference to the college is a reference to Birkbeck College in 1920. No. Wait. He referenced to the Register of Students during 1912 and 14, who was said to have had an exceptional memory for detail, stated later that he had a very definite recollection of Garvey and believed that he attended some courses in law. Okay. And so they got this from one of the professors at Birkbeck, and it was on record since 1953. It says Garvey later, remember he told us that he went to 2 colleges, right? Garvey later alluded to Birkbeck as the college where he spent a little time 20 years ago in a speech in 1932. So he told us he went to 2 colleges, and that was one of them. Let's continue on here to get some context. Hold on. I'm waiting. Then we're going to get to the good part, because we got a little excerpt here from Amy Garvey about this situation. Okay. This is just other stuff. Okay, here we are. 9. There's the reference to the letter. Garvey's first wife, Amy Ashwood Garvey, recalled in her unpublished memoir that he, Garvey, had been engaged to an English woman and contemplated marriage. So here's the second witness. Which part this memoir there? Oh no, help me. May I look for it? I think I found one copy. No, it wasn't this. It was something. Was it this? The book cannot be found. Me I look. So y'all help me look for this book. It says here, upon his return to Jamaica, Garvey was reported to have written to her. So according to Amy Garvey, who he meets upon his return to Jamaica, right? Because she's speaking, it said that she's speaking at a hall, and Garvey is enamored by her energy. And at that point, they meet up. You know what I mean? It says, marriage between us is now impossible. You will be far happier with a member of your own race. So I will be with one of mine. I have seen a girl, blood of my blood and of my own race. Forgive me, but if I marry you now, that you know the truth, I shall revert to my own kind every time the opportunity presents itself. And they said that this was, end quote, written by Amy Ashwood Garvey, Portrait of a Liberator, biographical sketch of Marcus Garvey, unpublished manuscript. So how will you get the unpublished manuscript? Anyway, this was probably a paraphrase and not a quote from the original letter. So I promised engagement to, and I have delivered. Hey, I'm coming to the comment section and I'm going to open up the mic because this one right here, I can't even say Madabuka because I have to say Marcos, Brother Marcos. I can't even say Mother Booker because this is not Mother Booker doing this. So I'm going to go ahead and put the link in the comment section. And again, I said, let's extend some grace. The time period he was in, the things that were going on, there was definitely something in the air, in his feelings. And it happened early on that he felt possibly entitled to do what he wanted to do, when he wanted to do, how he wanted to do it, and not feel as though that anybody or anyone is putting any limitations on him. And so this may be one of many, but he according to the two letters, he joked of it in one letter and then he divulged the information in another letter. And then here's a third witness, Amy Garvey, is over here saying, yeah, he said he was engaged. Maybe he decided, I'm not going back to Europe, because if you engaged her, then what were you going to do? Move to Europe? Or are you going to move her to Jamaica? Like, I don't know. Let me see what's going on. I put the link in the box. Let's see here. Marcus and Bob definitely has some parallels. They definitely did. What did you say? One sung about his mess and the other wrote it in letters. Hey, the thing about feelings and emotions, you got to get it out some way. If you don't, then they're going to consume you. So Marcus is like, dear homie. He wasn't saying, dear Jimmy, you want to say, I mean, he had to tell somebody. He looked like he was bursting at the seams to tell somebody. Well, the thing about these books is, Nicola, it starts to give us speech. Again, this is early on. I don't think he's on the speech network at this point. This is 1914. He does begin to write letters in the Gleaner and do stuff of that nature, but he's not full on Marcus Garvey, because remember, when he leaves Europe on the boat is when he over there laying on his back and getting the idea for the UNIA. Right? So it's not until his return from his engagement. They never tell what your name though. I wouldn't know. They never tell you what the Spanish heiress name. But it's on his way from the engagement that he comes up with the concept of UNIA and how to move forward, right? So I think that's within that timeline right there. Yeah, he chose career, or he just realized it wasn't going to work. Or maybe he was making up for what happened to him early on. Maybe he wanted to see if he still had it. I don't know what he was thinking about. You know what I mean? I don't know what he was thinking about, but he definitely was thinking about something, because he spoke about it. At least he knew it would be a contradiction. But this reminds me of Ella King wanting to marry the white woman that worked at his seminary. Yeah, I read that. I heard about that. I heard about that one. It's very similar. I heard about that one. But it's no different. If you look in biblical times, the person doesn't have to be white or black. It could just be somebody who's a next nationality, someone whose people don't necessarily identify or can support what it is that you're about, right? And we see this all throughout the Bible. You don't have to be another color. It's just another people, another custom. And the children of Israel, or the men of Israel, did it all the time. They did it all the time. I don't think they saw. I don't know what the connection is. The men would have to tell us. I don't know. Yeah, Marcus spilled his own tea. Oh goodness. Okay, Kevin says similar to where Tupac wrote a letter to Madonna ending their romance because he felt it was contradiction to. Oh, that's a good point there. That although he spoke to her for a good little time, they had him, you know, taking pictures and carrying on and doing the most. That's true. Like beyond their personal feelings, how would this look for what they say they represent? You know. Winter, why do you think he must have died an unhappy mind? I mean, based on how he died, you can see that he was disappointed. Many people say he was heartbroken for many reasons. And that's something much like in the end of Bob Marley's life. I think it would do us a great disservice to miss the humanity in all of these stories, and to say that you can grow big and have this ideology and reach so many people, but the person, the messenger, the person who carried and transmitted this, they had their own struggle, and many times they didn't return in peace. And that is the sad and sobering part of this story, right? Ah, let me see what I'm going. Let me see what I'm going. Fire emojis in the spot. Yes, 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 yes. That means the joint. Come on, man. I mean, history is fun if we make it real, which it is, you know, and we don't act as though, oh, because they came before us, that they didn't have the same emotions, feelings, made the same bad choices that people do today. You know what I mean? It is. So if anybody have anything to say, feel free to share. I don't want to jump ahead of myself. You know what I mean? There's some other stuff I came across, but I definitely wanted to bring that out because that's what was left on record. So if you have any other questions, feel free to share. So the part that we're up to is Marcus is back. Okay. I did find some Gleaner articles with him getting the UNIA started. And lo and behold, Amy Ashwood is right there on some of the first articles, right? To show that she was there from day one. And so we're going to go into that in a little bit. I think there was one more thing I wanted to read about the father, but we may have to circle back around to that. Again, yeah, his father definitely had an impact. His mother did in a certain type of way, not necessarily the way that we would expect. And judging by the two women that he eventually ended up marrying, he said his mother was soft, but these women were the opposite. It's the opposite of soft. You know what I mean? So it looks like he was attracted to these women for everything that he felt his mother should have been, possibly. And in one case with the first Amy, that's what caused this back and forth, because we oftentimes we try to replicate the relationship that we see modeled before us. And his father was able to handle his mother because his mother took, I guess, the disrespect, or took the energy that was coming from the father. But in the case of Marcus, if you pick the strong woman, chances are you're not going to be able to do that. Chances are you are not going to be able to do that. And chances are it will cause a problem. Prophetic Rowan says, I just hope Amy Garvey was not a consolation prize. Let's keep reading, because like two not even 2 years after they marry, they divorce. After they, that we're gonna get into it. We're gonna get into it because sometimes not knowing the backstory, we don't realize that, hey, what was your true inclination? Like, what did you really want? You know what I mean? And why didn't you, when you left Jamaica, when you got deported and went to Jamaica, why did you go? And I'm not saying, and those who know a little bit more, why did Marcus decide to go to Europe versus going to Africa? Right? After speaking so much about it and highlighting so much about Africa, why do you think he chose to go back to Europe versus going to Africa? So much so that later on, they have to bring his body back to Jamaica many, many years later, but they have to bring his body back because he dies in this very cold foreign land, right? Yeah, he caught himself, Ruth. He caught himself. Like, he realized, like, wait a minute. Globetrotter might have got to him. He was like, oh, they think I'm rich. They think I'm a millionaire. Let me ride this. Let me see how far I could ride this one out. I think he was feeling himself for a minute, and no one was really there to check him. So he got to become whoever he wanted to be because everybody else is back home. Who's going to tell you any different? You know what I mean? Could you have been a fly on the wall on those trains when he's traveling and he's talking and he's engaging and the people are all enamored by his personality? There are just a few tapes floating around with Marcus Garvey's actual voice. And his voice, to me, doesn't match his face. You know what I mean? But you can see why people of the day, by the way he spoke, would be pulled in, you know what I mean, to what it is that he was saying. So I hope she wasn't oh gosh, Candy, I'm sorry you didn't get a notification. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on. Princess says usually triggered by rejection from another nation. And that's what we read. That's what we read. Nicola says, I wish we had more information on her because I know. Yeah, I already looked at it, Nicole. I was like, nah, I'm not going down the rabbit hole because all they gave us was a Spanish, Spanish Irish heiress. I'm like, eh. The only thing to go on really is an heiress. That's the only thing to really go on. Then you'd have to just look at the time period and try to find the markers, the identity markers of that particular limited description. That's a very limited description, But yeah. Yep, Spanish Irish heiress. I don't know. They didn't give us much there. Princess says the Israelite men back then saw the woman around them and lusted. Yeah, this is the same stuff that happened. Same stuff that happened. They see, because the reality is, and let me just, sometimes men are looking very linearly. And shout out to all the men in the audience. Let me know if I'm bugging, okay? And not realizing that, or maybe in that moment, not realizing that you bringing or connecting with another nation is kind of making a treaty with that nation, trying to go in league with the nation. This is why marriages in old time used to establish treaties, okay? And so if this woman is grown in another nation, her customs are going to be different. Her traditions are going to be different. Her expectations are going to be different. Now, depending on who you are as the man, you are now going to open up your children to be exposed to these traditions, customs, and the like, right? And because she spends the most time with the children, the chances are she's going to acculturate them to her liking, her desires. And so oftentimes the men lose the children, even though they may in name be named after you. The children are going to have the affinity to their mother, just like people have affinity to their motherland or their mother culture. Okay. And so this is where that back and forth comes in. But in this particular time, I don't know how far down the rabbit hole he was looking, especially after you were called a ninja, and your original playmate was sent away to Scotland. I don't know. Hit the like button. Thank you, Wiz Key Films. Hit the like button. Hit the like button. We're bringing you top tier, you know what I mean? Top tier research here. Shout out to everybody because you guys make it happen. You say something, it might spark an idea. You tell me go look over here. You already know I'm going to go look. And then we're going to bring it back and have a conversation that is relevant to us today, right? Have a conversation that's relevant to us today to help us along in our own personal journeys. Yeah, remember the men of Israel always got in trouble for that. They had to send their foreign wives and children away. This is true, but look at Solomon. What did Solomon do the minute he got the kingship? He prayed for wisdom. And then not long after, not long after, he did it more than anybody else. There's something going on there. I don't know, right? Later on, they had to send them away. But sometimes then why did you just have all of those children? Because you're supposed to be raising up children for a cause, right? So that's kind of what it is. That's kind of what it is. Yeah, the UNIA, I think in the form that it manifested, and that's just me, these things that we're reading about in some degree were a catalyst for this conversation. Being rejected, because why you couldn't be rejected if that wasn't your inclination. You know what I mean? So I think definitely it affected him in a certain way. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Temptation. And it's not to say anybody is better than anybody else. It's in this particular conversation what Marcus becomes known for the world over, right? This empowerment to know that it started with him actually having an integration type of desire is curious. But again, the same thing happened with Malcolm X, right? It sounds like Amy Ashford's intellect was also, of course, yep. I think I read that when he first saw her speak, it was like, whoa, you know what I mean? So definitely he was drawn in by that. Interesting. Yeah, the two Amy's come in after this, but the two Amy's even come in a little saucy. You know what I mean? So we're gonna look at the first Amy, how she comes in, and then the second Amy slipping in on the tail of the first Amy. What in the Colleen said Marcus wanted to speak of himself, of whom he was, not what he was being told by his peers. You could share a little bit more, expound a little bit more on that one if you can. No, he was deported. He was deported from America. Trish Marcus, no, he was deported from America back to Jamaica when they tried to trump up the mail charges on him, the mail fraud. Yeah, the fly on the wall in that particular conversation when he was on that train doing the most. Never in a million years would I think I'd be tuning into an online Marcus discuss. You see, what day I know Marcus, who said that? That's funny. Hey, man. Cintasha says, never in a million years would I think I'd be tuning into an online book discussion about Marcus Garvey. This is Liddy. History is litty. If we don't know our history, we don't know where we're going. If we don't know the pitfalls, the things that came before us, we don't know. You know what I mean? And the youth need to know. Nothing new under the sun. So the more we know is the more we grow and the more it allows us to navigate the pitfalls, right? So yeah, definitely. Rasta says it is interesting. Okay, Kevin says UNI Papers, Volume 10 documents Garvey's attempt to get a visa to travel to Africa, but was rejected and banned for entering. Okay. Because I know that I read, did I read the declassified papers many years ago that the government did not want him to enter into, and shout out for the super chat, Kevin. The government didn't want him to enter Liberia. And so they banned him. But now that you said that, I think, okay, so that's why he wasn't able to enter into Africa. Okay. Thank you for that. Oh, not try and push me down the rabbit hole. Princess say, let's go down the rabbit hole. I don't know. The only descriptor that I think stands out is the Spanish. Unless if that's her real title, then the Spanish Irish that would be what would need that's going to make her stand out from every other possible person it could be, right? Whatever that would take us. Let's see. Although, sorry, let me see herself. Uh, Nefertina says, although Marcus was attracted to Amy Ashwood for her intellect and forceful personality, he most likely tried to convince her to submit to him like he experienced his mother. More than likely. Because according to him, right, the model of the woman that he would know, what he said of his mother was that my mother, on the other hand, was always willing to return a smile for a blow, and ever ready to bestow charity upon her enemy. On this strange combination, I was born 36 years ago. So he says his mother was a Christian. She was too soft and good for the time in which she lived. So again, yes, like you said, there's a possibility he's attracted to one side, but unable to make sense of the other side. And I don't want to go down too far, but they were like, oh, he didn't like, how other men were talking to her or how she was engaging in the public, different things we're going to get into. Yeah, the mother does have influence over the family. And so that needs to be considered when getting a wife, right? If Eleazar, the servant of Abraham, is going to walk, and it's not a short walk, he walked all the way back. That shows you that they understood at that time. He could have gotten any woman that was around, but he goes all the way back for a wife for his master's son. So that shows you that at that time they kind of understood it does matter who you marry. It does matter. Nipsey says having European neighbors and playing with that special playmate was an opening for him to test the waters. I don't know. I mean, like, again, it made it for him. According to him, it wasn't anything strange. It was something that was familiar to him. And again, if you listen to his descriptors, if you didn't get a chance to listen to the other 3 episodes, if you listen to the descriptors of how he describes himself, he's very, according to him, very confident, strong and forceful character, manly. He made people respect him. You understand what I'm saying? He had intelligence that he maintained throughout his days. So, yes, indeed. And that's what usually happens. If they say happy wife, happy life, that's what they say. And Solomon has a whole 300 of them. And they pressing Solomon, Solomon, Solomon. And then what are they going to bring? Their deities. They're going to bring their customs. They're going to bring their way of life. And at that time, Solomon seemed to be too busy to tell them, nah, sis, you can't be doing that. Until eventually he gives in. In the same way that Samson gives in to Delilah, Solomon gives in with all his wisdom to building these idolatrous structures and worst places of worship for the women that he married. This is also indicating you have to be mindful of who you are marrying. All right. The great historian John Henry Clark, shout out, in his Garvey lecture talked about how he knew both Amy's, and unfortunately both Amy's. Yes, I heard. Oh, wait. If you could put the lecture up here, Kevin. If you can't find it now, if you could drop it in the comment section below this video. Those are the things I miss from early YouTube. YouTube has changed over the years. Like, I was in YouTube from the beginning. Can I have a moment? Let me drink a little tea. Can I have a moment? Early YouTube. And thank you for the super chat. Early YouTube had these long lectures that I would just put on in the background, like listening to John Henry Clark, like listening to all of the elders, right? They would just have these old lectures that would be uploaded, and you could just listen and learn and glean. The new YouTube is not doing, but now we bringing it back. Marcus was a human, but he developed his nationalist principles later. And that's what hopefully we can take away from this conversation, that Marcus was a human and he made human decisions and choices. And he, at certain points, his head and his heart weren't in alignment. And but the fact that he was able to verbalize that on the letter mean that he was self-aware and he knew, listen, how could I think this way and feel this way? He said it on the letter to, what did he say? I don't want to put words in your mouth, Marcus. He said, it is somewhat destructive of my principle. Hence, the news is not yet conveyed to the Jamaican press. Well, I think at that point, he's kind of aware of how it would look because in that they put comma, hence. So it's destructive to his principle. He's self-aware, and this is why it has not been relayed to the Jamaican press. Who was going to relay it? Marcus. He was going to tell him, and he was like, "Yo, for that reason, I ain't saying nothing yet, but I'm telling." He said, "Pinch him." You know how old time people said, "Me, I'll pinch you and tell you something." He pinched him and told him. See, Marcus' story is already fire. Who told me? I forgot who told me. Like, the only way that Marcus' story is going to be more fire than Bob was if I found, no, not Marcus. I had to find Nanny's autobiography written on sheepskin. Who told me that? I told y'all Marcus is going to be fire. Marcus is going to be fire. Why? Because, you know what I mean? There's a lot to learn here. Yes, Nipsey. Yes, the second Amy, it is said, was a maid of honor to the first Amy. We gonna get there. We gonna get there. What did that go on in the early 1900s? What was going on? Okay, now we getting sus. We gonna have to come in and confirm all of this stuff. So you guys definitely bring it to the conversation on what we feel we heard before, and then we're gonna continue to cross-reference. So John Henry Clark is saying that he knew, if you have the link, feel free to share it, that he knew both Amy's. That's curious. My teacup overflow. Give thanks. Give thanks. Beverly says, whenever the enemy wants to destroy a man, they send a woman. But in this juncture, I think Marcus was looking for her. I don't think they sent her to him necessarily, because he's like, he wanted to go to Europe to see what was the condition. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I think to a certain degree, he wanted to go over there. I'm glad Garvey followed his head and not his heart, because we may not have never heard of the UNIA or Marcus Garvey. He would have been with his. Yo, I don't know if you guys saw, one of the biggest proponents of Marcus Garvey right now is Umar Johnson. And I don't know, side note, y'all. And I don't know if you guys saw a video where someone pranked Umar. And it's just interesting to see how he interacted when he didn't know what was going on. Trying to see if Umar would be inclined towards getting with a European woman. And just to see that, I was like, Umar is serious about what he out here talking about. Yes, she was in the wedding. That's what it said. We're going to come and talk about that some more. Franz Fanon spoke about the colonial subject not desiring to overthrow the oppressor, but to replace him in his house with his wife. I mean, for many men, the woman is the crown, right? The woman is the jewel, the crown and the jewel. So what was the first thing, or one of the first things that was done when they tried to take over, when you see people conquering nations, the men, not people, men conquering other nations, they debase the women, or they take the woman onto themselves and then debase the woman. You understand? And so we saw that during enslavement. We see that throughout history. So Marcus going towards who would be the colonizer's woman kind of is like showing to a certain degree psychologically that I'm not beneath you, because look, I have your prized possession in my hand. Your prized possession wants me. You understand what I'm saying? So I think there's a little bit of psychological thing to it. I think there's a little psychological situation to it. Okay, look up Hubert Harrison and Garvey's first wife's sister. If there's any specific place, let me put a note for that, because there's like 100 feeling. If there's any specific place, is there a book, is there a paper, is there something specific that it is if that's referenced, then let me know so that the search would be more fruitful. Hold on there. Where's shot my paper there? There were always speculations, but it was never confirmed that Garvey cheated on Amy Ashwood, and Amy Jackie's when led to divorcing Army Ashwood. But again, that was speculation, right? And that's where we get into the speculation of what many people at the time said was happening. And so we're going to go over it ourselves and kind of put it together. Hubert Harrison. Okay. All right, everyone. So that is what we have for today. Let me see if there's anything else. If there is not, then we will come back again next time so that we can talk more about this. I have some books coming in that I already ordered, and it's on the subject. So one of the books is what we're reading, actually, because right now it's on the screen. So if you want to see it on the screen, it's Garvey and Negro with the Hat, which is Garvey and Garveyism. So I ordered that so that I can have the copy as well, because this one has to be returned. It's like you rent it on the computer and then you got to give it back. So Negro with the Hat, shout out to Lucy. Thank you so much. Everybody press like, share, subscribe. Negro with the Hat is coming, and as well as another, I think it's the book written by second. It's the book written by second Amy. Yo, first Amy and second Amy is wow. That's crazy. So, and another great place to see some of it, and it only gives you a sneak preview. Right, Negro with the Hat and Garvey and Garveyism, which is written by the second Amy. Those two books are on their way. So definitely, the chief says it's perfectly fine for people to date outside of their ethnic group. So question in relation to Garvey, because that's what we're talking about now, do you think it would have been a contradiction in any way for him to be married to the Spanish Irish heiress and be the president, the provisional president of Africa, or the president of the UNIA? Do you think this would have been a conflict of interest at any, or would he be just okay? Okay, thank you so much. Do you think that would be okay? Because I think when we're looking at this conversation and the rhetoric and the information that we later learn and hear in all the speeches, it's giving, it wouldn't have been congruent. You know what I'm saying? It wouldn't have been congruent. So he made the choice, and and then UNIA is formed. So thank you for that. So that's what we have so far, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. I want to thank everybody who shared, everybody who sent forward some super chats, because we're going to put that back into what it is that we're doing here so we could continue to learn, grow, and share. And definitely, thank you, Kevin. I'm going to go ahead and check out those papers as well. There's a lot of papers. I'm like, how many volumes they out here selling? The volume is like thick like this. One volume is like, wow, what in the world? Yes, Negro with the Hat by Colin Grant. And the second book is Garvey and Garveyism. And that book is by Amy #2. That book is by Amy #2. So with that said, and of course, we're reading from this one. This one is not that much. Selected Writings of Marcus Garvey. So everybody, blessings. Have a blessed day. I'm going to boogie out. I'm going to run a Island Twist commercial. If you missed today's episode, it's up on the screen, and we will talk again next time. Island Twist follows Jackie Brown, a young girl who finds herself head over heels for the new island boy at school in fresh outer yard, and Jackie has the fever. But as she navigates the ups and downs of her new crush, things quickly spiral out of control when her not-so-secret admirer becomes determined to sabotage her relationship. So check out the new novel, Island Twist, over on Amazon today. Now back to the story.